I think Chip called me and said that it's on, Robert J. Young Company's on fire, it's on television.
Well, it happened on a Thursday night. It was about a little after 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. I got a phone call from Phil saying that he's had an alarm code saying there's a fire.
I asked the person that called me, I said, well, do you think I need to go down there? And they said, no, it'll be okay, not a big deal. And I sat there for about 5 more minutes and thinking about it and told my wife, we got to go down there.
I got my clothes on and I saw it as I was flashing out the door that was on television.
And found out, yeah, I mean, this is like, this is no joke, this is really happening. So I jumped in my car, as 50 or 100 other people did, and came blowing down here.
As we turned the corner from 65 on the 40 up here, you could see the building and smoke was just billowing out.
And as I got around Interstate, around the loop there, and I see flames coming out of the building, and it looked like there must have been 10 fire engines there. And I went, oh my goodness, this is serious.
Fireman came out and I asked me, what's that blind door? You remember when you had that, where you'd fall right down? The
fire department came in there and said there was some steps that was burned away, and you know they couldn't see their way around there because the smoke was so strong. And I remember my father trying to get him to let him put one of those suits on so he could go in the building.
And I says, well, it's a drop off there, and I says, let me put on that tank and I'll go in there and show you. Because I know that building, I know it better than anybody.
When we got down here, they had most of the fire was under control by 10:45, 11 o'clock. We were down here pretty quick.
I would say by 11 o'clock, there had to be 80 to 100 people here of employees.
I would say that 25% of our employees was down here. A bunch of them. I mean, it was a bunch of our employees.
The fire was basically out by midnight. And that's when we could go in and kind of assess what we had and what the situation was.
But I remember pulling the computers out, you know, some things we had to do that night we felt like we had to do while we still had access to the building, but trying to get the computers out.
There was probably 30 or 40 of us that worked through the night, stayed all night trying to salvage what we could. We got the computer system out. I remember the computer was so hot that we had to wrap it up in a blanket because you couldn't touch it.
And I remember us bringing this was the OMD server, across the street. We picked it up here across the parking lot, took it over to the service building, and hooked it onto the network over there. And by George, the thing worked.
Stayed up all night and picked through the supply inventory to try to save anything to where we could do business tomorrow. And the next morning, Chip had a meeting out here in the parking lot and told him we're going to start doing business just as usual, and we don't want our customers to know we've had a fire.
I got up on the forklift and made a simple statement that says, you know, we've had a situation here. I don't have a plan exactly today what we're going to do, but the one thing I do know is this needs to be an internal problem, and we need to take care of this internally. We need to make sure our customers do not feel this tragedy.
And he was speaking from the heart, I believe, and talking about that the fire was was playing a dramatic part in the future of our company and what we did, and but it was going to make us stronger. We were going to come out stronger from that.
And then we started moving around very quickly and had a plan of where we were going to move people and how we could function and be back up and running very quickly.
The next morning they were doing billing. We had to move the computer and get it reset up over in the service building, but we were doing our billing the next morning, and those folks were doing it under some extreme adverse conditions.
The interesting thing is by the next morning, I think around 10 o'clock, we were taking service calls, taking customer calls, we were running calls. I mean, it was almost seamless, one of my favorite words. It was almost seamless from a customer perspective.
And we pulled that off and then moved into this remodeled facility in July of 1999. So a little bit over a year later, we did get back in this facility.